My name is Stacy Greer. I work for Talk It Out NC. I'm a program coordinator supervisor. We're here with Monarch Academy this evening. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to talk about stories of recovery and support. Again, we have two students from Wake Monarch Academy. And if you're not familiar with Wake Monarch Academy, Wake Monarch Academy's primary purpose is to create programs and environments aimed at the prevention, reduction of, and recovery from substance use by adolescents in the Triangle area of North Carolina. Their mission statement is to provide a recovery-based environment for students to successfully pursue academic, personal, and professional goals. And I love their belief statement. They believe recovery is most successful in the community. No one is alone. No one should have to go through this process alone, and together we can be better. And I'm excited that we are partnering with Wake Monarch Academy to be part of that community through this webinar and other endeavors. Wake Monarch was started by Leah Wright. She realized the need for support and resources for adolescents struggling with substance abuse. Through her strong faith and career as an educator, Leah felt led to start a recovery high school where adolescents recovering from substance use disorders could successfully pursue their academic, professional, and personal goals in a safe and supportive environment. Jimmy and Leah watched this documentary, Generation Found, and saw how their own struggles might have been different if a recovery high school had been available. And so that's how they developed Wake Monarch Academy, and we're so happy to have them around for students um, and families, really. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go ahead and introduce the students that we have online with us this evening. We have Dabney and Devin. Hi. And
Hello.
Dabney's, hey. I love the backgrounds. Looks like Dabney and her mom are at the beach. Devin's hanging out in the wilderness, looks like. I think he's got the coolest spot. Definitely the coolest spot. Thank you. And Kathy is here with us on behalf of Wake Monarch. Kathy, tell us a little bit about what you do at Wake Monarch Academy.
I am one of the academic coordinators, so I make sure that I'm there to support the kids in their education, all aspects of their education. So make sure they're staying on track, help to chart out their goals, what they need to get done, and just to be there to support them and love them.
We could tell that. We've been talking off screen, everybody, before we really logged on, and to see the relationship that Kathy has built with these students, I could feel the support. And I don't even go to Wake Monarch, but I could feel the support. I could feel that those relationships had been built, which is part of the, I know, the trust and the recovery. Dabney, do you want to start? And maybe
Sure.
just tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Okay. So, the first time I ever used a substance was in November of 2021. I got high for the first time, and I kind of just started using from there. I wouldn't say I forced my friends into using with me, but it was definitely like peer pressuring them. And then I found the wrong groups of people to hang around with. And of course, I got more deep into all the other aspects of that. And yeah.
I muted while you were talking. What grade are you in, Dabney?
I'm a senior, 12th grade.
Senior.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you glad to be a senior?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Devin, you want to tell us a little bit about your story, how you ended up at Wake Monarch Academy?
I came out of a couple of um uh, mental health facilities, and I wasn't doing so hot after I came out of those, and pretty sure it was a commercial you guys saw.
Yeah.
It was a commercial, and my mom and my dad were like, "Yeah, try to get him in that
To Wake Monarch.
into Wake Monarch. Yeah.
And sounds like you found your people also, Devin. I could tell from how you were talking with Dabney earlier and with Miss Kathy. You found
Yeah.
that group and that support. How important has it been for Dabney and Devin to find this supportive environment in Wake Monarch? Do you think you would have the same success if you were still in like a regular high school?
Devin, do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. I definitely don't think I would have any success if I was in a regular high school. I like to say that like you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. So when I got out of public high school, I was homeschooled for a little bit less than a year, but that didn't work out for me. And then took a tour of Monarch, and it was just like I needed to be there. And it's been a great environment ever since. It's very helpful, keeps me on track with things and personal life, and then also recovery life as well.
And for me, I like how Wake Monarch has like the self-pace thing. Like in regular high schools, like I would not be able to do anything. I would be too stressed out, and I would just be going crazy.
How you think it would work? Like, why you think Wake Monarch is good for you right now? How it's working for
And
you?
I would have to say, it's just the support and like um the like being held responsible for like my actions is really helping. Cause like if I was gonna go use or do some do something stupid, I would have everyone, you know, tell me how I can do better and how tell me that's like okay and all that.
Sounds like you found support in
Yeah.
friendships. They rally around you. Again, I can see that just through talking with you all. Parents, how has Wake Monarch made a difference for you all? Because it's not just about the student, it is also about the parents and finding some of that support. How has Wake Monarch been different for the parents? Deborah, you want to
Big thing
start?
for. Oh, sorry, go
Okay, either. Yeah,
Brad,
go ahead.
Brad, please go
Bradley, go
ahead.
ahead.
One big thing for us is it's been a good support system. Find like knowing and getting to know the others, just like the kids are getting to know each other at school, of what we're going through, dealing with it. It may not be us dealing with it, but us dealing with them, dealing with their situations. Um, I will say, and to echo off of what Dabney and Devin both said, the public school system, and I'm not here to knock on any of this stuff, but the public school system fails a lot of kids just in general. But these kids that definitely need the extra and the different type of care and help is immense. And so I actually, when Devin said the commercial, Devin was in in whatever inpatient outpatient, I don't know a rehab center in New Hampshire and or in the New England area. But while he was doing that, I just was flipping through PBS because I like this old house, and it wasn't on. Instead, there was a documentary about this school, and I saw Leah instantly talking about her son and what her and her husband had went through, and um, it was one of those things where I'm like, that's cool. But in the back of my head, all I'm thinking is, yeah, that's cool. We still don't have the money to be able to do these type of programs to help our child out. And I watched the rest of that, and it was just something like, that's a pipe dream. when Devin got home, we had some support from other people that were giving us numbers to call, people to contact, et cetera, et cetera. And me and Devin have butted heads a lot over the years because of different reasons. And this is a big part of it. So I had kind of kept myself out of it while Bria was scrambling around trying to find, more help. And I could hear, I'm on one side of the bed, she's on the other, and I can hear a voice on the other side of the line. And it was Leah, but I knew that voice from the documentary. That's how much it stuck with me. And so instantly I was like, hit that speaker. And I'm like, there's some reason that this came across right now. And from that day forward, it's just been nothing but positive. And yes, there are a ton of setbacks through the school with, some of the kids and, the falling back and, relapsing and things like that. But the care that Leah and the staff there shows them and does for them, you're not going to find 5% of that in the public school system. And as strong as I feel I am, and my wife is, we needed these guys for this whole thing. And I mean, so I can't say enough praises about the school and the programming and the people involved with it all.
And Deborah, you want to give your thoughts on how Wake Monarch has helped you and your family?
Very similar to what Brad was discussing. When we recognized our child was struggling, you feel very alone. You feel like nobody else in the world is going through what you're going through. Nobody talks about it. Nobody says, hey, my child's in recovery. No one talks about AA. I mean, very few. And so you just feel alone, and you get to a point where you share a little with some friends, and Wake Monarch, the name, kept coming up. And so I'm a person of faith, and I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. And I happened to be in my eye doctor's office, and he needed to ask some medical questions about my daughter. And so I was honest, not knowing what she was doing and how it was affecting her eyes. And so he says to me, hold on, I'll be right back. And he goes and gets a Wake Monarch Academy brochure. And he said, I know the executive director. And I said, I've actually heard of them before. I'll call them today. So I literally left the eye doctor and called Leah, and we set up a tour probably within a week. Brad is exactly right. You will not get a tenth of the support that the school has in the public school environment. And as Dabney mentioned, she can't go back to that environment. That's the environment that made her sick. And the care and the love and the academics and the community service and the community of the students themselves encouraging each other and discussing their own sobriety makes the kids feel like they're not alone. And we also have parent group where we discuss being a parent with a child that's in recovery, and having them gone through what they've gone through, we get each other, we understand it. Maybe not exactly the same, but you understand you're scared for your child, and you want the best for your child, and you love your child. That doesn't ever change. So the school has truly been incredible for our family. We've loved getting to know Devin and his family. I mean, we all feel that like one big community, honestly. It's been amazing. And we don't think she would be here today if we didn't have Wake Monarch Academy.
That is awesome. And I am glad that they are here today. I love the smiles and the faces. I mean, it's infectious. It's definitely infectious. So
Thank you.
going back to Dabney and Devin, and thank you, parents, for sharing that, because you could feel your sense of community, of family, of support as you told how Wake Monarch has been instrumental in helping your students and yourselves, because you've definitely got to be part of this entire process for them
Yes,
to be
ma'am.
successful. So I can feel that when you all are talking. For Devin and Dabney, going back, do you remember the first time you either drank alcohol or used an illegal substance, and what that made you feel like in that moment? Are you able to share that with us?
Yes. I remember both. I'm pretty sure. Obviously, earlier I mentioned it was November of 21. I remember that one very well, actually. I met up with this girl. I don't even remember why I wanted to, but we went to the woods and it was one of her friends and he brought some marijuana and we sat there and got high. And then another time I'm pretty sure this was my first time that I drank alcohol. I was at my public high school. I went to Middle Creek and I skipped my first period class and I had brought in some like spiked drinks that I had gotten out of my parents' fridge, and another friend who's actually a student at the school as well. He brought some other alcohol and we got drunk out in the woods during first period, and we just walked around and like there I was laying in the parking lot, just not like just flat out laying in the parking lot. Like it was not something I am proud of.
Mine was when I first used alcohol was I was trying to figure out what don't remember how old I was. I was probably under 14, and so I was trying to figure out how to what this like twirly thing on a in the silverware drawer was, and I was like, and I was told it was used for wine bottles, and so I like dig it in there and I pull it out and I sniff it. I'm like, that smells bad, and then I drank it, and I liked it, but I didn't like it at the same time, so I just kept on drinking it, and uh, that's what that was. But when I used drugs for the first time, I was with my birth dad. Out of I got kicked out of my aunt's house. Um, I just had a suicide attempt, or you would call it that, and uh, my uncle, who's schizophrenic, he decided that he wanted to give me marijuana, and uh, me and my dad were fighting. He would hit me and all that, all that good stuff. Um, and I went in the bathroom of his work, and I would I just started smoking it, and I like the whole thing like it's pretty big, and came out, and I was like I was like acting weird. I was doing all this weird stuff that was very abnormal, and my dad saw, and he looked in my eyes and he said, "Where'd you get it?" And I just got super scared, and he knew exactly where I got it from. He got it from his brother, and uh but that didn't stop me. Yeah.
Well, I just have to say thank you. And we're just starting, but thank you for being so open with your stories, because you're going to help another teenager. You're going to help another family. And I know it also helps in your long term recovery to be able to share your stories open and honestly. So we are not taking for granted that you have come here today and that you are doing this. We are super, super thankful and proud of both of you. I am just, I'm amazed. I'm amazed and deeply moved. So I just wanted to stop and say thank you for really sharing, because I know it can be painful. And your parents are sitting right there.
Yeah.
And even though we know they know, you're telling them, maybe they knew the whole story, maybe they didn't, but that also talks to the bond and the trust that you've built between each other through this hardship, through this recovery process. So next question I want to talk about, because we talk about teenagers and you get your driver's license and there's that new level of freedom going on. Have you been in situations where maybe you or a friend of yours was drinking and driving or impaired and driving? And if so, how did that make you feel? Did you feel like, this is bad? Maybe I shouldn't get in the car?
I don't remember having a situation where somebody else was driving under an influence, but I had like one situation where I was coming home from work, and this was when I was 15 and I had my permit. And I had recently like just smoked off of my dab pen and I was high, and my dad came to pick me up and I drove home and I was high, and it was a 5-minute drive. Thank goodness I didn't hurt anybody, but that was the one and the only time I ever drove under an influence. I refused to get in the car with anybody drinking, had any substances within them that day, just simply because my brother was hit by a drunk driver at 2 a.m. So I have a big fear of that now. But thank goodness I was never stupid enough to get in the car with somebody drinking and driving.
Or do it anymore.
Or do it anymore myself, yes.
I didn't drive a car. I drove a four-wheeler. And I was going stupid fast. And on the street. I didn't tell anybody about it, but I was doing this with it. I don't know why. And I got to a point where I went in a ditch and I flipped it. And then I was like crying and all this. And I was like, I'm gonna get in trouble, and then I with all my strength I picked it up, I put it back on its four wheels and drove back home and I act like nothing happened.
So, I have to ask the parents, did you see a difference in your child? Did you notice any differences?
I can't say absolutely not. A lot of the start, based off of what we've talked about and what he's talked about now too, was away from our house. Because Devin was back in Illinois for a while, living at his aunt's, and like you said, over to his father's house for a while. But when he returned, there was a lot of differences, where I would say I was suspect, and just kind of, when it comes to the alcohol stuff, I mean, I've been a bartender for 25 plus years, and you see it a lot. Even when people try to hide it, I mean, you can pick it out. But I didn't push the issue, things like that. It was, I hope not. I don't want to upset his mom. I don't want to, upset him. So I never really truly approached it. I would say more of the suspected, but didn't want to jump into it. His mother, on the other hand, I think she had a little more inclination on some of the things too. Probably more denial at the same time. But it really wasn't until we found bottles and weed and stuff like that in his room just one random day that was like, well, I should have said something before.
Miss Deborah?
Clearly there was a huge difference in my child when she started, I say, going south. When she started struggling, Dabney was a child of COVID, and that started the downfall to everything. She's very social, very outgoing. And her freshman year of high school, she was at home by herself in front of a computer and was not able to see anybody. And even some of the neighborhood kids wouldn't go outside and play because they were terrified of getting COVID. So you have a child that is very happy, very easy-go-lucky, and I cannot say enough about how happy she was prior to COVID. COVID hit, and then high school hit, and that's when things started going south. And so she would hibernate in her room. She would wear a sweatshirt and cover her face and pull the string around it. She was hiding. And her personality changed, and I'm very in tune with my kids, so I almost knew instantly that something was different. I just didn't know exactly what was going on. I never ever once thought that alcohol and drugs would be a part of, because we talked all the time about you don't even try it one time because it can lead to a lifetime of challenges. So we had numerous conversations about this, but there was a lot that happened around the COVID time and the results of COVID and the isolation, unfortunately, that she felt, that I think contributed to her going south. So I absolutely noticed a big change. I knew that this was not my child.
Kathy walked away. I was going to ask her an impromptu question. Let's see if
She's
she
coming
comes
back,
back.
I think. Yeah,
No.
she's coming. She said she'll be right back.
We're going to blame it on the pets. We've already talked about that. We're going to blame it on the pets.
I was letting the cat out. Literally.
I understand. So Deborah mentioned COVID, and Kathy, I know you're at Wake Monarch. Did you see that COVID was a direct effect of some of the students' ability or want to dabble, to use?
I was teaching in the public schools during COVID. COVID's kind of what pushed me to retirement. So I'll have to say that we did see a lot of mental health issues, and I'll have to say that quite a few more students were not doing well at all because of COVID, because of the isolation. And I can see where they would turn to substance use to help cope with that, because I mean, it was a hard time for all of us.
Yes, it was. Deborah, you mentioned that you talked with Dabney and your other children all the time about the dangers of alcohol and drug use. Do you remember what age they were when you first had the conversation with them? Do you remember?
I am sure I started in elementary school, to be quite honest. It's just, muscle memory and just constantly, talking to your children about life in general. And so that was part of my conversations. You don't ever try it. You don't do it the first time, because it can lead to other things. And so I'm sure in elementary school, I started having that conversation. Remember that too?
And Bradley, I know
I
you.
don't.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go
I
ahead,
don't remember
Deb.
like exactly when she would talk to my brothers and I about this, but I was young, and her and my father would not stop talking about, don't do this, it's dangerous. Like, yeah.
And Bradley, I know you mentioned Devin was living with his father at the time. Did you talk about it when he did come to move with you all?
Well, I mean, he lived with us prior to that. It was just a short
Okay.
period that he had moved back. I'd have to let you answer that. I don't know more. I guess it'd be more of, again, with the line of work that I was in, that it was more putting off of, like, I don't think I was ever, you don't do this, you don't do that, but it's, hey, this isn't for, an underage person. I mean, this isn't what you do. And I never really got into deep discussions about it, but at times we're like, well, let's get a fake ID. I'm like, and I would be a little angry and about that, because that's what I deal with, or at the time that's what I was dealing with. And his younger brother the same too. I'm like, well, then nobody would be able to tell if we're old enough, blah blah blah. And I was like, it's not a smart thing, but I don't know. And again, if you remember if I did or not. I don't remember ever sitting down and being like, here's the ins and outs of it. But just more of I hope you notice this is what I do, and I'm relaying the information to you just in conversation, but not necessarily the sit down, here's the talk type of thing about it. Did I?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
No.
That was good.
Did your
That
mom at
was
all?
good.
No.
You
He's
guys
like,
only did that with nicotine.
Well, that is something that I know Bria did talk to him about nicotine and things like that, pretty hardcore. And then, I mean, I guess it would just be more for me when I talk to him in passing. But the worry, and it does happen for all parents, is when you're telling them, don't do this, what's the first thing you want to do?
they want to go do it, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So this question is more so for parents, but students, you can definitely jump in. Parents, how did you react when you fully understood that your teenager was having a substance abuse misuse opportunity? Were you mad? How did you react in that moment? Deborah's
I
like
react.
ready.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead,
Go
Bradley.
ahead.
Go ahead, Bradley.
Brad.
Go ahead.
So,
I love it. Go ahead.
My reaction was mad, but that was more of a front. My true reaction was disappointed. I honestly, it was more me and his mom at the time, just because it happened. Like, how did this happen? How did it happen? Instantly, I was mad as hell at him, just from like, this is so stupid. But then it was that, I guess you go into the stages and all that kind of stuff, and it happened real quick. But it was anger to start with, mad at him, and then all of a sudden the jumble of emotions, and like, was it me? Did I push it? Did it happen because we did this? And it was all over the place from there. But the instant thing was anger at him at that point.
And Miss Deborah?
I will just say probably not well. I don't remember exactly how I responded. Probably angry, probably really scared. That's probably the biggest emotion. And if you are hurt, that comes out with anger. So I'm sure I was hurt because I've worked really hard to raise my children in the best environment possible. And all of a sudden, something's not working the way that it should, or I thought it should and envisioned. And so it's like, oh my gosh, just the hurt, the sadness, the scare, the fear. And I think anger comes out from the scared part. So I'm sure I did not handle that very well.
I'm gonna ask Dabney. How did you react to your mom's reaction? Because I could see it on your face. Yeah. How did you react to her
I remember
reaction?
everything so clearly. So I know the first time that she ever quote unquote caught me or like found out. So my friend and I were at our other friend's house, and her and my best friend's mom came to pick us up. And when I get home, I have my little mini backpack and everything. And her and my second oldest brother, who I was extremely close with, sat me down at the kitchen table. And I don't know exactly what they said, but they were like, "We think something's going on." And they took my bag and searched it and dumped it out and found the things that I had in my bag. And then I'm like, okay, screw you. So I'm going upstairs thinking, okay, they haven't found the stuff that's hidden on me. That's not it. She's like, "Freeze, wait, let me check you." I'm like, okay, I'm fine. She's not going to look in my bra. She looked in my bra. I had vapes and marijuana pens in my bra hiding, and yeah, she was not happy. My brother was extremely disappointed in me, and I think that hurt a lot because I was extremely close with him. I think she was mad and angry and just flabbergasted. It just surprised and just stunned at what her child had become and what her child was doing behind her back.
Devin, did you want to comment about how you felt with your parents found out and confronted you?
You, I don't really remember all too much because I probably had more when they were searching me, and I was probably intoxicated then. So I don't really remember.
That's honest. That's honest. Thank you. Again, thank you for both of you for your honesty. So you're at Wake Monarch, you're in recovery, you've got great support systems. Not to say you're not going to have setbacks, but you've got great support systems. And I see these relationships that are honest and open and caring. What are some of the stressors that may have encouraged you to try alcohol or drugs in the first place? I know, Dabney, you talked about peer pressure a little bit. Do you think you would have tried drugs and or alcohol had it not been for peer pressure?
I don't know that answer. I'm not, I don't,
Did we get the mic on?
yeah, the mic's on, sorry, I turned it off.
Have it on.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't remember the reason I first got into it. Like, I'm not, I don't know, but it definitely had a part because, seeing that there's more kids out there that drink and smoke, and it's like, oh, okay, there's so many people that do it. It's normal. I can do it. It was the normality and how normalized it was, thinking, oh, it's okay if all of these people do it, I can do it.
Devin, did you want to add anything?
Gotcha. Let you into it.
A big one, a big stressor was my whole situation with my father, and a lot of toxic masculinity into that. Um, we were moving all the time, so I didn't really have like friends. Um, uh, I was just bored. I couldn't be trusted with a whole lot of stuff. I couldn't go out. I couldn't. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a TV in my room. I was just most of it was just boredom. Um, um, yeah.
So how do you deal with stress now? Or how do you deal when you're in uncomfortable situations? What are some of the positive things you've learned through being at Wake Monarch and possibly therapy about how to deal with stress and how to deal when life doesn't go your way? What are some different choices you're able to make now that you maybe weren't able to make before?
I think for me, a lot of my stress turned into anger, but like now I like to like shake my hands and like I act like I'm shaking the stress off of me. It's just like a I breathe a lot. I take time to breathe. Listen to music, slow my breathing. I have a therapy cat that I tend to like to hold, even though she doesn't like me holding her. Um, Sometimes if I have the option to, I will pace. like back and forth. Because I used to walk a lot, and that helps. I fidget with things. Yeah, mostly that. Uh, I also do my makeup a lot. So that's I love doing my makeup. It's such a stress reliever too. It's fun to do, I guess.
I might need a lesson because doing my makeup is not releasing my stress, Miss Daphne. It does not. It does not. But I love
Stacey,
that for you.
I'll share with you that Wake Monarch has been incredible in helping all of the children understand that they have tools in their toolbox to use when they get into a scenario that they are uncomfortable in whatever way that means. So that is part of what they do is they talk about what happens when you get into that space. What are you going to do about it so that you don't turn to the substances, the alcohol, drugs, etc.
Yeah, like for example, our recovery coach, if we need to talk to him, we can say, "Hey, Max, like I need to talk to you." And typically he'll stop what he's doing and talk to us and be like, "Can you give me 10 minutes and I can talk?" Sometimes we're able to sit down in the mornings and like be like, "Hey, can we have a recovery meeting?" And we'll talk about things. It definitely teaches us to talk about our feelings, which is good. You don't need to bottle things up because that's when things get rough and you bottle them up and eventually you burst and it's not a good experience. We have recovery meetings, kind of like an AA meeting, but it's just for the kids at the school, Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons. I definitely think those are very, very helpful. And they teach us how to learn and cope with stuff and talking things out.
The school is a great resource. Honestly, it's teaching them incredible tools.
It sounds like you're learning individually, but also as a group. Because what de-stresses you, Dabney, may not necessarily de-stress Devin, because he's probably not doing makeup.
That's
right?
what I'm thinking. He's probably not putting on
Yeah,
mascara.
I've asked to do his makeup. He's no, don't do it. Don't touch my face. They're like, Daddy, you should do Devin's makeup. No.
He's like, no. Devin, what are some of the ways you have learned to deal with stress in uncomfortable situations?
I usually take myself away from the situation, a lot and like reassess what's going on. Um, um, I listen to music. I, on my free time, make music, and that's like one big thing of my life right now. Uh, um, and talking to people, is a big one. Um, I think that's about it. Yeah.
So, Devin, I have to ask, what genre of music do you make?
It's a mixture. Sometimes sometimes it's rock, sometimes it's a mixture of rock and rap, and sometimes
Okay,
it's just rap.
I like it.
He's
I
a big
feel like I
country
need to
fan.
come by Wake Mo. Oh, a little country? No? That was like, no. That was
He's
a
got
quick no.
he's pretty good at it. He's pretty good at it. He's got some of them I can dance to, but only when his back's turned.
Devin, did you know Kathy was dancing to some of your music?
Wow.
Interesting. Um, Again, I just want to thank everyone, Dabney, Deborah, Bradley, Devin, Miss Kathy. You all have been so open and honest, and revealing in telling your stories. I feel that as you're telling your stories, that you're lifting up even more within yourselves. I wanted to see if we had any questions from our audience. We do have quite a few people logged on. So if you have any questions you would like to ask, um, Devin and Deborah, or Bradley and Devin. I hope I didn't just mix that up. Or Miss Kathy, please put them in the chat. I love the together mode. It's going to give everybody a few moments. If they had a question or two, they could type them in the chat box, and then Miss Heather would read them to us, or comments.
They can also request to, if they raise their hand, I can unmute them so they can have a conversation.
Okay. So if you know how to push the hand button and you want to ask a question or say a comment, Heather will assist with that also. Looks like 2 people are typing away down there.
Beth says, first, thank you so much. Y'all are awesome and an inspiration to others. Was there a moment or turning point where you felt like you got it and then motivated within yourselves to move forward?
I think I guess 2 necessarily different time areas. When I was like ready to get sober, my mom said something about how like you have to stop or something's gonna happen. You can't live with us anymore. And that was like a okay, I need to be done. I have a problem. I need help. And then I want to say 3, 4, 5 months into my sobriety, I guess something just clicked and I just kind of was like, just a better person. I wasn't rude. I wasn't necessarily mean to my mom anymore. I didn't blame her for everything. I started becoming more thankful for her and like protective of her. I was like, I have this, I had no worries. I was like, okay, this is life. This is how I want to live it. Um, and I want to live it sober.
Awesome. One of the things we did last year, trying to share my screen and go back to, so last year we did a parent-student survey. Can you all hear me? I just want to make sure
Yes.
I had unmuted
Yeah.
myself. Okay, thank you. Last year we did a parent-student survey asking some of these tough questions. Are parents starting the conversation? Are they having the conversation at all? Too soon? Too late? And then just some of the, just really quickly as we're kind of winding down, some of the things we found out during this survey were parents were waiting too long to have the conversation with their children about the dangers of underage drinking. And I know, Deborah, you said you had the conversation often, but Bradley said, well, he kind of thought maybe, but wasn't really ready to start the conversation. So we have found that if parents start that conversation early, that it does help. Be an open dialogue, making sure students can and kids can talk back with their parents. And even Dabney just said, now I can talk to her. I'm not blaming her. I'm having those open conversations. So we do, even through this survey, understand how important it is for kids to feel like they're heard. Would you say that's accurate, Dabney? I see you
Oh,
shaking your
yes.
head.
I used to not be able to talk to my mom. I would not want to talk to her about anything. And I don't think there's anything that I don't talk to her about. Like our relationship is completely different than it was when I first like got sober. I was mean and rude and like, for example, during my interview for the school, I think I was in the interview for 2 hours sitting there with Miss Leah and the recovery coach arguing with my mom and yelling at her. And now I don't argue with her. I have open conversations. I understand her point of view. She sees my shoes as well. Like I have the ability to put myself in her position.
That's awesome. And just to see where your relationship has come since then. So some of the things that students were saying in this survey, and Dabney and Devin, you can tell us if these things are true based on your time with your peers. Students see underage drinking as more of a serious problem than their local community or even their parents saw it. So did you see, because Dabney, you said it almost felt normal. If it almost felt like more students were partaking in alcohol and misusing controlled substances.
Yes. I think, yeah, it's a very serious problem.
Did you see that students were normalizing it by maybe posting on social media?
Yes.
And back when you were in regular or public high school, do you think more of your friends did drink alcohol regularly than did not drink alcohol regularly?
I think almost all of my friends had drank at some point in time, not necessarily regularly. I've had one friend that has never drank and never gotten high. But all of my other friends have been high, or drank at some point in time. Former friends, not.
Those are the former friends.
Yes.
Thankfully, those are the former friends, and she doesn't hang out with them anymore, which is fantastic.
So one of the most surprising points from the survey, and I just like to make it really big, most students believed that having conversations with their parents and amongst their friends would help stop underage drinking. Is anybody else surprised to hear that?
And in my opinion, I feel like if it's a friend coming to a friend, I think that would be more beneficial depending on your relationship with that friend. Because some people would take it as like criticism, being like, oh, you don't like me because of this. It's more so you have to come to them with, hey, I want to help and I care about you. I think kids get scared of their parents because of from what other kids say about their parents.
There was a point that in the early stages when we found out Devin was using, that he made a comment one time, and it was, if you only knew how commonplace it was and how many kids actually did this, you wouldn't be as pissed as you are. So, something along those lines. And it was one of those things where I'm like, shut up, quit trying to make an excuse. But then you stop to look at it and you think about it. And I mean, I go back to when I was in school, I didn't. I had plenty of friends that did. I didn't like it, but it was something that we could talk amongst it. But they knew, hey, I'm not going to pressure you because you're not going to do it, whatever it was. But I got to think, well, there were quite a few kids that did do it at that age, whether it was drinking or drugs, things like that. And I'm like, okay, he's got a point. But the surprising part is, like, why would I think that it's not commonplace, but why would I think it's not such a high number right now if it was a high number back then? Even, well, I mean, what was going to change from there to now? I mean, kids are going to try stuff, things like that. But it was just until he said that line that I was just like, really? Like, I guess, yeah. So I mean, now reading that, I'm not surprised. But before that conversation we had and that comment, I would have been like, nah.
See, you didn't believe him when he was saying, like, a lot of my friends, a lot of my peers are doing this.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents
And I
may
kind of
think
used it
that.
more as stop using it like an excuse for you to be like, it's okay. And it was a little surprising.
Wow. Heather, did we have any more questions from the chat? I have so much
We
up
do,
on
we
my
have-
screen. Okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we've got a few more questions. So Ms. Berna asked, is there anyone else that you would have listened to besides your parents? And then another question that she had is, where did those friends get alcohol?
Oh, I did listen to one of my friends at once. I had this one friend, she has stuck with me before my addiction, during my addiction, and after my addiction. And the whole time she'd be like, Dabney, do better. Dabney, stop. Dabney, you can't be doing this anymore. Dabney, this isn't good for you. And she would always talk to me and say, you need help. And what I'm aware of is she would even talk to my mom about it. And she wouldn't tell me about it. And I'm sure I probably would have been mad at her, But I know now that she was saving my life.
And was there something specific that your support group said that helped you turn the corner?
I went to a PHP and IOP program. One of the leaders, I want to say, gave me a quote, and I have stuck with that quote, and it is hope. HOPE, hold on, pain ends. And that has just stuck with me like glue.
Where'd the friends get the alcohol?
Oh, friends getting alcohol. They would go, I think there would be certain alcohol places that wouldn't card. Some of my friends would get it from their parents. Their parents would give it to them.
Which is shocking to me. She would tell me that, and I'd be like, "You've got to be kidding me." No, it was very prevalent. She had friends that would get high with the parents. I'm like, "What are these people thinking?" I know. I'm like, "Holy moly."
Yeah. They would steal it. A lot would steal. Parents, alcohol places. They would get older siblings to buy it for them, etc.
Devin, did you want to answer either of those questions? Is there someone else you would have listened to besides your parents?
Definitely my grandfather. My grandfather was father figure for a very while, and he's a cop, so it didn't go well when he found out and all that. But he's like he's up there on my respect chart, like probably the very top.
Unmute
Stacey, you're
yourself.
muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, I just saw that. We are at 7:00. We could talk all night. You all have been absolutely amazing. We just want to again say thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing the good and the bad, because I know this started out as very uncomfortable as what you saw as a bad situation, but it looks like you've all turned this into a positive, a closer relationship, better supports, more supports, being able to tell your story, and hopefully we're reaching other teens and other parents and other families so that they also know that they are not alone. We've put our underage drinking prevention initiative, talkitoutinc.org, on the screen. So if anyone is looking for assistance, wakemonarch.org. Great school, great family. We appreciate the partnership. We appreciate your openness, and we appreciate you being here with us this evening. Any last words? And Dabney, I love that whole hope. I had to write that down. I wrote that down.
Yeah, I take that everywhere with me. I tell so many people about it.
She has an ornament in her room that's what's that game? It's not Yahtzee, it's the spelling game. I'm drawing a blank on what it is.
Scrabble.
Yes, thank
Scrabble?
you. It's Scrabble, and it says, the HOPE, and that has really stuck with her. And we talk about that. That's one of the things we talk about in our communications when she is struggling with anything. I'm like, Dabney, what do you tell yourself? And she's like, hope. I'm like, that's right. So she reminds herself of that as well. And one day at a time. That's right, Shirley. Remember, one day at a time.
And I can't say too, just something to think about is you're not alone. Like you're only alone. And this may sound rude. You're only alone if you leave yourself alone. There's resources out there. There's people out there, but it's not easy to take that step to get the help. But just please remember, in all these situations, you're not alone, even though it feels that way. And take yourself outside of that box, step out to talk to people, and you'll be amazed with how much is relieved in that process.
Those are great words to end on. You're not alone. And you all are not alone. I feel like I'm friends. I want to come over and hang out with you all at Wake Monarch.
Tell her to come on.
Come on over.
Because I want to hear some of Devin's music, and I may have to let Miss Daffy do my makeup. I'm just saying. Thank you again, families. We really appreciate it. On behalf of Talk It Out NC, Wake Monarch, have a wonderful evening and continue to heal, have hope, and continue on this positive journey. We are so proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for having us.
Awesome.